Northern Light Addiction Care at Acadia Hospital in Bangor held a moment of silence today. It was to honor those lost to opioid addiction as part of Black Balloon Day. Every March 6th, families and community members nationwide come together to remember those lost and share awareness and education about addiction. Hospital staff spoke before the moment of silence. They want to raise awareness as drug overdoses are the most common cause of accidental deaths in the U.S., more than deaths caused by guns or car accidents. They also shared what they see every day through their work and talked about the importance of resources for those living with addiction.
In our job, we work very closely with others who are struggling with opioid addiction here in the Bangor location. And the purpose of today is to come together and spread awareness and share that there is hope, but to also honor the lives that unfortunately we've lost over the last few years.
According to Northern Light Health, 490 Mainers were lost to opioid overdoses in 2024.